A couple is at a real estate office. They are about to purchase their dream house. They have the money and an additional mortgage to pay for the house. So there at the real estate office, the real estate officer hands them the contract for the purchase of the property. The husband and the wife go through the contract and everything is fine to them. They have the money, they have the funds, they like the neighborhood, so they're ready. But then their solicitor looks at the contract and solicitor tells them no, this is not going to happen. The husband who hires the solicitor was thinking, what? He went to the hall with the solicitor and they discussed the matter. The husband trusted the solicitor. The solicitor was a good friend of his during high school. And he knew that the solicitor wouldn't try to undermine him whatsoever. The solicitor earned far more money than he did. The solicitor told him, John, don't do this. John didn't do it. The couple left it like that. A week later, John asked the solicitor, whose name is Kevin, why Kevin told him not to do it. And Kevin brought a copy of the contract with him. The contract he didn't sign. And Kevin told him, John, you see this line over here? It says that the purchaser, the one that purchased it, will be charged for all the damages caused by the previous inhabitants of the property. It's written there. Just a small sentence, but it's written there. You know what that means, John? That means that if there are toxic chemicals on the soil, that's not your fault. You didn't cause it. You will be held accountable for it. You will have to pay for it. If there was something wrong with the construction, you have to stand up for it. You are the one being charged. And then John asked him, but Kevin, why is this such a bad thing? We checked the property, everything is fine. And Kevin told him, John, use your common sense, man. Why would a real estate office, whose job it is to maintain the property until they find someone who wants to buy it, why would they put a line like this in the contract if they are sure that the building they're selling you is in a good state? The fact alone that they put such a sentence in a contract, by doing that, they are revealing that there's something wrong with that building. But they don't tell you what's wrong with the building because they want to sell it to you, so that they can be rid of their responsibility. John, that is how scammers scam you. They won't tell you openly what's going on. They will not inform you about the context, but they will hide in plain sight that something is amiss. And when John thought about it, John agreed with him. Indeed, if a building is renovated and you cleanse the building, it's ready for sale, why do you put in a contract that the one that purchased it will be charged for all the damages caused by the predecessors? So, that was the parable. Now, in this example, it was obvious that the husband and the wife overlooked that one sentence in the agreement. But the solicitor, who was trained at university and also at his internships, because he did multiple internships, he was trained to be very analytical and to examine the context of every agreement, that means every written agreement, he noticed the oddity immediately. And because he noticed the oddity, he also noticed other things didn't add up with the agreement. Now, most people out there are like that couple. They look at the picture looks nice, and they can afford the picture, so they agree with the picture. They don't look at the bigger picture, they don't look at the context. People like me, and I hope people like you also, are like that solicitor. They don't just look at the picture, they look at the context in which the picture is, because the picture doesn't stand on its own. The picture is part of a bigger whole. So, people that look at the bigger picture, they examine the context of things. And because they examine the context, they see more than other people. So, what does this relate to? This relates to agreeing with other people. In order for human beings to get along as a species, we need to agree with one another. We need to agree with one another which language to speak. We need to agree on spelling and grammar so that we can understand when someone is writing something. For example, the sound your can both mean something that belongs to you, or it can be you. It can mean you are. So you need to have clarity on writing so people know what's written somewhere. We need to agree on which side of the road we travel upon. It can't be that half of the people drive on the left side and others on the right. That goes wrong. So we need to have collective agreements with one another in order for us to be able to live with each other. That's obvious. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there are collective agreements, or better said, societal expectations, that are curses in disguise. Let me explain. You may be from an archaic background where your family is quite formal. Maybe you come from a family where most people studied law, or people were quite involved in the military. And within this context, there are certain prescriptions on how you relate to others, how you talk to others. And as a child, you have no other option, you get along. You really don't have any other option. The moment, however, you become older, you should reflect on what you've been taught by your parents, by your family, by your neighborhood. And you should examine the agreements they transferred onto you. Because the language you speak is a collective agreement from the past that's passed on to you. Your first name is a collective agreement. As a human being, you inherit many collective agreements, and you walk in those agreements. As a small child, you have no option. Even as a teenager, you're not really aware of what's going on. But the moment you approach the end of your teenage years, you now have the ability to reflect and to examine. From that moment on, you should reflect on all the collective agreements you're walking into. Because everyone walks in an agreement. As a human being, you're always walking in agreement with someone or with something. The fact that you speak a language means you are in agreement. If you speak Dutch, you are in agreement with the collective agreements that the ancestors of the current Dutch people made. If you speak Japanese, maybe you may not be a native Japanese, but when you speak Japanese, you agree with the language structures of Japanese. When you go to your job and you're dressed formally, you walk in agreement with what the culture expects of you. Even though you didn't design the culture, didn't create the culture, but you agree with it. Every day you wake up and breathe, you act and walk in agreement. The question is, who are you in agreement with? And about those agreements, are they in line with Christ? That's the first thing you need to ask. If they're not in line with Christ, then you need to watch out. Because every agreement that's not in line with Christ is an open door for evil spirits to get a hold on you. Very easy example. This whole idea that you need to give homage to people that are older than you or to people with a higher position. We have accepted it as second nature. We don't question it. But when you look at it carefully, why is it that just because someone is older than you, their physical body is older than you, or just because they are ranking higher than you in decision making about something, why is it that you have to give this enormous validation to them, often at your own expense? There is no logical reason for this. There is no way you can justify this when you examine it. Yet we agree with it. Why? Because we want to get along with others. We don't want to have conflict and we want to have jobs. Because without jobs, we can't pay rent, we'll be homeless. We don't want all of those troubles. We don't want to be violated by society. Because when you don't agree with society, society violates you. And society always plays the victim. It's always your fault when society violates you. So we don't want to be violated, so we get along with the agreements. Well, when you're a child or you're in your early teens or you don't know any better, then you don't have any option. You get along with agreements. The moment you are a bit older and you see that you have options, you should reflect and you should unlearn and forfeit agreements that don't line up with Christ. Think about and I'm going to give a new example. I think that is far better. So you have this platform where people upload their pictures and they share them. Photographers also do it. And let's say that's Instagram. A lot of people are using it, even companies are using it. But then there was this young girl, 17 years old. She loved photography and she refused to use Instagram. Now, first people thought, well, she wants to be a bit old-fashioned, but that was not the case. She explained, when you read the terms of Instagram, it says that the moment you upload a picture using their service, you transfer the copyright onto Instagram, which means that Instagram can use that version that you've uploaded whenever and however they want. So that means that if you've uploaded a picture of you and your spouse together, Instagram now legally can use that picture for advertisement and they can sell the rights on that picture because that picture now belongs to them. This is something written in the terms and conditions of Instagram. When you download the app, you get the part where you read the terms and conditions. You also see it when you're making an account, but most people don't read it. Most people are only focused on, oh, it's Instagram. I want to be able to use it. They look at the function of something. They look at the how, but they don't check the why. Now, the why should be obvious. When the why isn't obvious, something is wrong. Too many people only look at the function, what they can get out of something. And when they see that there is some benefit in something, when they perceive a benefit, they say yes to something without checking the context in which something takes place. I didn't know that about Instagram until, well, this was even before Instagram was taken over by Facebook, but someone pointed out to me. Now, using that example of Instagram, realize that just like with Instagram, as with many of the applications people use, folks often don't check the terms of the agreement. And with the terms, I mean the context. For example, you had this aging app that people began to use a lot this year, 2019. I didn't use it, but I saw many people, believers and unbelievers, use it. It was shortly afterwards that in mainstream media they admitted that by using the app, those that made the application now had legal rights on your pictures. And those pictures are now stored in a database. And through an algorithm, they now have built patterns about societies. So they now have constructed a database in which they can even predict how you will look like in the future, and they did it with your compliance. You get this? So if some organization came out and said, we want to know how people will look like in the future, because we can use this information to give to police or to give to other or institutions or political groups. If they would have said that, many people would have said, get out of here. Why, what's in it for us? Why do you want to know all that about us? But now they came out with an app. And the app was socially accepted by the commoners. And because it was socially accepted, more people began to use it. Because once something becomes socially accepted, people get along with it. So many people got along with with this aging app, without questioning the context. And it's later on that the dangers of that app became visible, and even police officers, even the police, at least in the Netherlands, told people to delete that app from their mobile phone because there are security risks. When the police comes out and tells people to delete an app, that's quite serious. That's what I mean. When something is socially accepted, people tend to agree with it. And that's understandable. There's nothing wrong with that in itself. But what if the agreement is a trap? What if there's a hidden condition within the agreement that you don't see? Another example. Let's say that this is something that happened in history. There was this prince from this French royal house. Well, the royals in general are messed up anyway because they worship the beast. We know that. But I'm going to use this example anyway. There was this prince of this French royal house, because it was this French royal house that ruled both France and England at that time. So you had the King of England, who was a Frenchman, and he had a little brother who was the prince. And the bigger brother, who was the King of England, I don't know which king it was, but the big brother now had to decide whom the others would marry. Now, likely, he would select either one of the noble wives of England or the noble, one of the noble women from England or one of the noble women from France. That's what he would likely do. This prince received an offer to marry a French noblewoman who was good looking also. And this prince was so excited to get into that marriage. But the older brother said, no, this is not going to happen. So that younger brother, that prince, was thinking, what? Why not? They are French. They are from a good background. But the older brother made plain, no, don't do it. And later it became obvious why the older brother told them don't do it. Because the older brother looked at the bigger picture. The older brother realized the following. He realized that France was going through a rough time, while England was in prosperity. And there were rich people in France that developed animosity against the English. So the bigger brother realized, if this younger brother of mine marries that French noblewoman, he will become the scapegoat. He will become the target of the anger amongst the rich French people. So then the King of France himself will be forgotten, and now it's this English prince that will be seen as the aggressor. So the older brother foresaw all of this. That's why he told the younger brother, don't do it. That is how it is with many of us, unfortunately. We don't see the hidden terms of the agreement. Let me give another example. You arrive somewhere. Let's say you are about to start college. You're 20, you want to start college, and you want to join some student association club because you think, okay, I want to have new friends, I want to have a social network. And you find an association and you join. In the beginning, everything is fine. But later, you realize, hold on a minute, I need to pay to be part of this association, I need to attend meetings, I need to attend parties, and at parties I'm expected to purchase drinks, so there's a lot of drinking going on. Yes, I do get social contacts quickly, perhaps that instantly, but later realize that you're only in contact with those people. You become shy towards others outside of the group, and before you know it, you graduated college and you're kicked out. And after you're kicked out, you realize, hold on a minute, those were 5 years of my life, and now it's all gone, and it didn't really work out that well for me. You've realized that you spent a lot of money pleasing those other people of that group, and now all the people in that group went their own way, and the only people you know now are people from that group. So actually, when now, after those 5 years, you realize, hold on a minute, I joined because I thought I would gain something for life. But the only thing you gained were fleeting memories that won't benefit you in the long run. Now what happened? You didn't look at the hidden terms of the agreement. The agreement was, you join this group, you get social contacts, you will get parties, and you'll be accepted. That's what you wanted. But there was a hidden term in it. And that term was that now you would become completely dependent on the validation from that group. That was the context. If you would have looked at the construction that you would join, you would have realized this. Or let me give another example. People graduate and they want to get full-time jobs because they think by doing that they'll be accepted. You get a job, things go well. After a while, you become sick because you work too much. One day, you faint at the workplace, and what happens? You are removed. After a while, you're fired, and they've replaced you with someone much younger than you, and things continued as if you've never existed. And then you feel cheated. You think, okay, I was so diligent and loyal to this company, but there's one thing you forgot. You don't own the company. The company needs you temporarily to remain in existence. It needs workers. That's why you were there. You were a worker, and in exchange you got the compensation. That's what you agreed to. The hidden term of that agreement is that the moment the corporation or the company doesn't need you anymore, you're gone. So if you would have examined the situation, you would have realized, hold on a minute, if I do this, I'll be drained during the week. I won't have much time left for myself anymore. I'll only have a compensation at the end of the month. Years will pass by, and after years pass by, I'll still be just that, a worker with a compensation. And because I don't own any shares in this company, if it's a corporation, you can't own shares to begin with, I think, depending on the type of legal entity the business is. But that aside, you don't own any shares. So you are not part of the haves. You're part of the haves not. That's why you need to work to begin with. But because you were accepted, because you got a high salary, and because you received colleagues that you were fond of and they were fond of you, you were blinded from seeing the hidden term of the agreement. That is how Satan traps many people. He comes with an agreement that sounds reasonable until you check the hidden term within the agreement. Always examine any agreement you walk in. Check the details. Don't lose yourself in the details. I'm not telling you to do that. Don't imagine bad things in everything. That's paranoia, that's unhealthy. Just check the context. And if you see a hidden term, acknowledge that the term is there. And if you walk in agreement with it, walk in agreement with it only for a practical reason. And there are things you shouldn't walk in agreement with at all. Do not overlook the hidden terms in the agreement. By doing that, you're setting yourself up